Hi, my name is Chanel,
Hey, my name's Annmarie.
and we are the girls of Sweet 15.
Woo! Oh my gosh, I feel like it's been so long since we've recorded. Like I've been telling everyone, I'm like, yeah, the podcast this, the podcast that. Like I felt like a fraud because I'm like, oh my gosh, nothing crazy has been happening with the podcast lately. It was kind of like we were on a hiatus.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely were on a hiatus. We just didn't tell anyone we were on a hiatus.
Oh my god.
But I have to say, I feel like we've been getting a lot of like really good feedback and stuff from people I've spoken to about the podcast. So it also was like very encouraging to like come back and like start back at it.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny, I met so many people recently. I've just been at like events and I was like, yeah, I have a podcast. And like, oh my gosh, can we follow you? And they went straight to Spotify, like to follow us, like check us out.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh my gosh, I love the photo, like our profile photo. I was like, me too. I can never change it. It's my favorite. But yeah,
Oh.
it was funny. I had a conversation the other day with somebody at an event, and she was like, why do you do the podcast? Like, what's the purpose? And I feel like I didn't
Mm,
know. I didn't know why I was doing it until I started talking to her. And I was like, honestly, I just really love having these conversations and then elevating them in a way where other people can hear them too. And so
yeah.
it was kind of eye opening, and I really enjoyed that conversation.
But I think even in the past, like even when we first thought about like making the podcast, there was a group of us and we did say the reason why we wanted to have it was to have like the conversations we would have when we were back in university. And I have to say, like getting the feedback from people who have listened to it, that is the feedback I get from them. They're always like, yeah, like I never thought of it this way, or I had a completely different perspective. So it was really like eye-opening for me. And it's good to hear that because I feel like that was the reason why we even started the podcast in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that like people will sit down and actually listen to us
Mm.
and talk. Like, I mean, we talk for hours. Oh my gosh. Like, and so it's good that people can take something away from it.
Yeah, and it's great to do it with your best friend as well. It makes everything much more special.
Are you talking about me?
No, I was talking about my other friend,
No.
my other podcast.
It's funny because yeah, I'm like whenever like you and I have like tension or something, I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't record. It's gonna be so awkward. Like we had recorded an episode once, like a listener letter episode. It was just
That was the worst. It never went up. Y'all will never hear that episode.
and the thing is I
Wait,
knew
did it go up?
no, we
No,
didn't.
no, it
We
never
didn't
went up. It
even
never went up.
we didn't release any of those.
We didn't
Any of
even
the listeners.
continue the idea of the listener letters.
It was like a mini segment. We gave up. We let it go.
Yeah.
We threw it to the wind. I'm not gonna say it was my fault, but I was being very passive aggressive. That's all I'm gonna say.
And I don't remember what the problem was, and I believe you might believe that it was my fault. But
Oh my god. Yeah. It's all about belief here. Anyway, I think it's been a while. We still have a lot of episodes in the docket. We're still going to be
Mhm.
recording new stuff, but until then, I really want us to focus on what we have. And they're episodes that I'm really proud of. I know we had our little music series, which was fun. I think we still have one or two more episodes for that, but for the most part,
Mm.
it's going to be new content, new things, new conversations, kind of things we haven't really talked about before. And so I think since it's been a couple of months since we released anything, we should go into some life updates.
Yeah, for sure. So Anne-Marie, do you want to start off first, or should I start us off?
I think you should start.
Okay, honestly, I don't remember where we were. I meant to look up what was like the actual last episode
Mm.
to see like when to even give the updates for. I know we did like the
Actually,
music month in March. Was it
yeah,
like March, April?
yeah, it was March, April. But actually, we could talk a little bit about that too, because I think we were running out of steam a little bit. Maybe this is something we could discuss too. I feel like
Yeah.
podcast wise, like the direction of the podcast, I was getting so excited because I had joined a PR group on Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these people we could interview, all these possible musicians, and blah blah blah. I was getting so excited, and I stopped being very selective with our time, and we ended up going overboard with the music episodes. And so I think moving forward, we're going to shift focus, and we don't want to be repeating topics and ideas. We're going to be very focused on what the mission is, and that's just having these difficult conversations and then having different types of conversations. So of course we'll still have like some artsy stuff, some music stuff. That's not the focus of this podcast. And poor Chanel was getting a little bit buried in the music minutia of it.
Ah,
But
buried in the music. That's quite nice though. Buried in the music. I like that.
yeah, she was buried in the music. I picture you like with like sheets of music like cascading all over you, falling from the ceiling. Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I see it. But yeah, I think we're just shifting focus, getting back on track,
Mm.
which we have a hard time doing sometimes. But you can definitely look forward to more diverse topics, I'd say.
Yeah. I have to say, so I looked it up. Our last episode was actually the ending of May. So
Oh
it's
wow.
only been June, July, August, September, because it's the end of September now that we're recording it. So about 4 months that we kind of haven't been really pushing out episodes. And I'm trying to think like what was happening at the end of May. That makes sense.
I have no
That
idea
makes
what was
sense.
happening at the end of May. If you can.
Yeah, so I think I know why I was really, really overwhelmed. So last year I was working at an organization and I changed my contract from an intern contract to a temporary contract. And I was working with my manager, who I love, and she ended up like she was having a baby. And at like mid-May, she left and we couldn't find any replacement for her. So me as someone who was just taking over a role, like one role, I now had to do the role of my manager, my actual role itself, and then there was an intern we had who also left. So there's technically three jobs I was doing as one person who was very, very underqualified. And I think doing that and then the podcast on top of it, I really did feel buried. And I think like at that time it wasn't a low point, but I think I was so overwhelmed and stressed out and I didn't know how to handle it. And then by June, July, it was kind of I was definitely drowning. And then once we got deeper into the summertime, I was able to kind of balance things out. I knew the role a little bit more better. We ended up hiring someone else to kind of support me with the role. And the team I was in, we were able to kind of like balance each other out. So I think that's when the real like one of the main reasons why, at least on my part, I did feel very, very overwhelmed and the podcast did take a step back for me. And then from there, I did go on a few vacations. I was traveling a lot. Um, I just turned 27. Um, yeah, I I kind of started a relationship during that
Kind
time as
of.
well. So I think there were just a lot of changes that was happening the past few months, and now I felt a little bit more like balanced to be able to take on a little bit more like extra responsibilities and to get back into the swing of things. So I think it's mostly for my life updates.
Nice. It's funny because I feel
Mm.
like we're always on like the opposite sides of the seesaw. Like I feel like when you're overwhelmed, I'm not. And then when
Mm.
you're more stable, I'm overwhelmed. So I feel like now I'm on the flip side, which is really funny. But I guess for me, life updates, I'm still working at HBO, which I guess is not really an update. But I've applied to move over to CNN, so hopefully that will be a thing, but we'll see. Manifesting it. I've decided what I want to do with my career. I've decided I want to be a correspondent. I want to do more journalism, and I'm going to start taking my content more seriously on social media. Um, I've actually become a lot more stable. I haven't traveled as much as I used to. I feel like for the first time, instead of like deciding to run away and jump on a plane, I'm trying to be a little bit more centered and focused on what I want. I've been auditioning a lot for like in arena roles, hosting roles. I've gotten a lot of different like modeling gigs and yeah, I've just been doing a lot of like casting stuff. But I think for me, the best part has been I've seen a lot of improvement in myself. Like I look at old tapes and like old pictures I took and I compare them to what I'm doing now. And it's just like a whole different playing field. And yeah, I think those are most of my big life updates. Oh, I met the president of Slovakia 2 days ago. I had a meeting. with the president of Slovakia. I've been like cautious about telling people this because some people say he's a little bit controversial. He's a new president. A little bit controversial is an understatement, but he was nice to me. I'm at the Secret Service. It was very interesting. Um, yeah, I've been getting invited to a lot more events. I feel like I'm finally on the track that I want to be, but I haven't gotten to the end point yet. So I've been practicing a lot of gratitude and compassion for myself. I did an energy cleansing yesterday with our girl Shannon from Babes Rising. And she told me like my energy was like, okay, I'm gonna tell you exactly what she said. She said when she started, my energy was like one of those like dirty rivers
Oh,
in like a third world country.
oh my gosh, that's very descriptive.
When she said that, I was like, that came to you? She was like, yeah, like like with all the litter and stuff, like floating
There's a
across.
country that's coming to mind, but I'm not gonna
I was
say
like,
it.
oh wow, wow, that's good to know. So yeah, I'm trying to focus more on decluttering and focusing in on what I want. I think if you guys are into human design, projectors are supposed to like wait for the invitation. The thing
Yeah,
is,
we have an episode on it if you
yeah,
go
yeah,
back.
yeah. Go back and listen to it. But the thing is, I don't think I had enough, or I wasn't listening enough to my intuition. So I was like, instead of this is so type A of me, but instead of like listening to my intuition and figuring out which invites I should take, I just took them all. I was like, I'll just do everything and I'll run from thing to thing. And I feel like I wasn't being present. So now I'm just trying to focus in on saying no more and what I actually want to do. No relationship here, but I have been dating a little bit, I guess. I'm gonna use like the word dating loosely. And yeah, I did travel over the summer. People would be like, "Oh, you said you didn't travel much," but for me, this wasn't too crazy. But I went to Paris in the south of France for the Olympics, and then I also went to Monaco.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I got cast in a reality show. It's a
Oh
short-term reality show, and I decided to do it. I've accepted the offer, but I can't give any additional details yet. It's not. It's like a first season, like nothing crazy, but I've been wanting to be on a reality show, so
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah. And I don't know, for me, I feel like I see a lot of things shifting for you as well. Like even from the content you put up and like the different engagements you participate in. I feel like you're definitely on the path that you need to be on to get to where you want to be. So I'm really proud of you.
I appreciate it so much. I've been feeling. I told Chanel this. I've been feeling not overwhelmed, but I feel like I'm getting into places I want to be right now, but I'm struggling with like emotional security and I've been feeling a lot of
Mm.
imposter syndrome to the extent that I've never felt before. And so I'm trying to work on it. But yeah, if anyone, maybe we'll do an episode on it actually. I think it'd be a good topic.
Yeah, I'm
Because
surprised
I think
we haven't. Have we not done one on imposter syndrome?
no, we haven't.
How's that
See,
possible?
I don't know how that's not pop. But the thing is, I
It's
think
something
I
we talk
also
about a lot.
we talk about it a lot, but I feel like we don't name it. Like I feel like this is the first time I've actually like gone to someone and been like, hey, like I'm feeling like I can identify it as being imposter syndrome instead of me just telling myself, oh, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here. Like
Mm.
after I met the president of Slovakia, and like there are all these high level like Slovak people there. Like I spoke to someone who worked with Elon Musk, like people who worked for Uber, people who worked for all these like big
Mm.
companies, like a Rangers player. Like these are like really high profile people in the community. I don't know. On the way home, I had like a mental breakdown. Like I was just crying and crying. People on the bus probably thought I was crazy. Like, I was literally sitting there sobbing. Like literally, I was getting off the bus. Bus driver was like, "Have a good night." I was like, "Goodbye," and there's like tears streaming down my face. And I just kept telling myself, I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. Like I'm a fraud. I don't know, I've never talked to myself in that way before. So it's just
Mm.
so crazy to identify it. But I realized like I want to be able to enjoy where I'm at and where I'm going. So I need to work on things until then. So I talked to an astrologer also. Oh my gosh, I sound so woo woo. I don't know who I've become. But I talked to an astrologer at this creator event, and she told me to like be kind to my inner child, to
Mm.
talk to her. I don't really like children, so I think it's gonna be hard for me. But I've been trying to talk to my inner child. I'm like, you go, good job, little Annmarie. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. I mean, because you talked about what you're working on, I want to talk about something that I've been working on too. So as I brought up before, like I'm in a relationship, and I think there's a lot of like triggers that I have that because I feel like certain relationships kind of bring up things for you. And because I've never been in this type of relationship before, I was never able to notice these triggers. And like little things will come up for me. Like sometimes, like I just want to lie about things. Like I just want to be like, no, like I don't know. I don't know what it is. But then I had to come back to myself and like, Chanel, why do you feel like you have to do this? Like, why are you doing this crazy thing you know you don't need to do? And I think it kind of made me like go back into my past and kind of like revisit certain things. So I think it's just interesting. It's something I guess I'm working on as well. Not so much the not lying part, but more of the trying to
Maybe we work on the not lying part too. Because
yes, that as well, that as
I feel like
well.
the same thing with other things also. Where like Chanel would tell me something and then I'd bring it back to her a couple of weeks later and she would be like, I never said that. And it
Okay,
wasn't
no,
even anything serious. Like
this
she'd
is
be lying
something
about the
else.
most, but it would be like the most random things. Like it wasn't even anything serious where like it would matter if you told the truth or not. It was just like something super random.
I don't know what that is, honestly. I think that's something else. I think I need to get that checked out because it's happened to multiple friends where they would be like, "Oh, you said this," and I'm like, "We never had that conversation."
And
But
the thing is, my sister was there when these conversations happened, so she could actually back me up. She's like,
yeah,
no, I heard it too.
that's what I was shocked about. I was like, Christine heard it as well. Okay, she can't be lying then.
They can't both be lying.
She can't both be lying. But yeah. So moving on from that, you mentioned like how you went to the Olympics during like in France.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one of the cool activities we're able to do together this year. So other than just spending time with me, like what were some other highlights?
I feel like we didn't spend enough time together. I think this was such a unique trip because I got to bring my sister also, and so me and my sister we've been to Toronto before, Florida, but this was like a big trip for us, just the two of us, and so I wanted to really make sure she was having a good time, seeing things. We started. Should we talk about Monaco also? Because we started in
Yeah,
Monaco,
we can.
and I have to say, I don't know if I could ever date a man again after going to Monaco. Like the men in
A regular band.
a regular man, like the men in Monaco are just like not even like I feel like they don't even want anything from you, but they're so nice. And I feel like so many
Hmm.
people went to Monaco and told me they had a bad experience there, that they didn't like it, they weren't a fan of the vibes, they thought it was a little too elitist. I loved it. I didn't find it to be that way at all, but I guess maybe it depends on the spaces you're in. I feel like we went to a lot of like the high end, high profile places that you would go. Like we went to Jimmy's, we went to um Amazonica, like we went to all of like the
Hmm.
really cool spots and I had a great time wherever we went. I thought it was fantastic. I do think it was pricey, but I don't think it was anything outrageous. Like I feel like I've been places that
Yeah.
were more expensive. Like when I had like a stopover in the UAE, like I would literally get a smoothie and it would be like $20. Like I didn't find the prices to be that insane in
Yeah.
Monaco. I didn't think it was cheap. I didn't think it was ridiculous. But I will say, like the men, great sense of humor. They're like everything you could want. All the best parts of French men mixed with something different. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like they have like the cheekiness of like a French man. Like they'll banter, they'll play with you a little bit. They're just a little bit more elevated.
Yeah, I could see that. Because I will also say I feel like especially when I spoke to like French people, they'll be like, "Oh, where did you go for vacations?" I was like, "Oh, we went to Monaco." There's always like this perception that they had about people that go to Monaco. It just seems like, oh, like people are who go to Monaco are very like arrogant or obnoxious or something. Like that's how they made me feel if I told them I went to Monaco.
Yeah.
There's also the idea that like Monaco is like outrageously expensive. I will say like we're coming from New York, we're coming from Paris, we're coming from London, we're coming from like really big cities and we've lived in those cities. So going to Monaco to me it didn't feel like anything crazier. Like the prices that we would pay for like just regular food would be the same prices we'd pay here in Paris or in New York, if not cheaper. There were some things that were actually cheaper in Monaco than if you paid for in Paris or New York.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
felt the exact same way. But I feel like French people are jealous because people in Monaco are just better. They're happier, they're better, they're more attractive. Like I don't know. I just loved everything in Monaco. And I had no real interest in going. Like my sister, she loves F1, so she wanted to go.
Mm,
But I don't know, like every time we would take a taxi, they would open the door for you. They would close the door
yeah.
for you. Like I thought I had high standards with Drake, but like after going to Monaco,
Yeah.
I don't even
And
know what to say.
I will also say like the people we were like having conversations with and interacting with, I don't to me they didn't give off millionaire, billionaire. I think it was very much like people who were like the service people. They were the people in the casino, the people who were driving the taxis. Like they were very like down to earth people. So I think that's
Yeah,
also like why we had such a good time or had a good experience with the people we were speaking to because they didn't give off the vibe of like what you would expect of someone like living in Monaco. So
yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that really like was the cherry on top of the experience.
Yeah. I will say there was one day where we Brat Girl Summered in Monaco and we went
Oh
a little bit too
goodness.
hard. And it was an
Yeah.
accident. It wasn't supposed to happen this
We
way.
met other Americans and I think that's what started it off.
I think what started it off was getting locked outside of our apartment at
Oh
two
yeah,
o'clock in the morning.
that is true. That is
So
also
we
true.
we locked the key inside our apartment at 2
We
a.m. I don't want to get into it. I thought Chanel had taken the key. I had
but
been
I
in
don't understand what made you think this.
You walked towards the key. You literally walked over to the key. I didn't see you pick it up, but I saw you walk towards it.
Maybe because my shoes were near it. I don't know. I have no idea what you've seen.
The thing is, I was getting upset because the whole trip, I feel like I was in charge of everything. I had the key. I paid for things. I did this. Annmarie, what are the directions? Annmarie this, Annmarie that. So we had just woken up from a nap because we knew like we were going to go out late because the club, I mean, things don't start happening until it's late. It's Europe.
Mm.
And so we woke up. I was half asleep. I wasn't really thinking. I was already annoyed that I was in charge of everything. And then we're about to leave, and I see Chanel walking towards the key. And I was like, wow, that's so nice of Chanel. Like, I really appreciate her, like, taking the key. And, like, that's really, and usually every time we left, she would be like, oh, like, you guys have the key, right? Before we closed the door. She didn't
Yeah.
ask that this time. So I was like, okay,
Until
she must have gotten the key. So we walk out, right? Close the door, and then Chanel goes, do you have the key? I was like, no, I thought you had it. It was locked inside. It was locked inside. And Chanel's like, I'm just gonna wait here. I'm just gonna wait here until someone comes to get us the key. I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. So I call our Airbnb and I'm like, hey, like we locked ourselves out. He probably thought we were crackheads. It was like 2 a.m. But that's a whole other story. We ended up befriending him. But he was in Spain. For some reason, this man wasn't even around. So he was like, I can get you another key, but you can't get it until what was it, like 10 a.m. the next day.
yeah,
So we were like, oh, that's fine. We'll just go party hard at the club. But we were
yeah.
all agitated. We get to the club, nothing's happening. There's like one other group of American girls, and that's it. Like, I don't know, for some reason, a lot of the clubs were empty. I don't know if people were like vacationing or somewhere else. Maybe they were in town for the Olympics and they
I
left.
kind of loved it. I kind of loved it.
I kind of loved it too, but the thing is, we thought we were going to be at the club until like
Oh yeah.
8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for like 2 hours. We ended up leaving. Everything was shut down all over town. We befriended these American girls. We had to like walk. They said they knew another spot. They had talked to some people at the club, and there's another spot that was going to be open till like 8. So we're like, okay, good. We got to kill time. We have nothing to do. And then in the meantime, the Airbnb had been like, oh, like there's a hotel down the street. I think you could probably get it for like 150 for the night. Honestly, I don't know why we didn't just if we split it between the three of us, it would have been like $50 each. Instead, we ended up having the most ratchet night ever in the most in the world. It was so ridiculous. But after that, we got pulled over by the police because we were walking down a tunnel. Everyone was a little bit tipsy. I'm not gonna say I was wasted, but the other girls we were with, they were tipsy for sure. And so we're walking through the tunnel, and then we hear like beeping. It was completely silent. We had been a little bit loud. I'll say that. Like we were a little bit loud for a place that's like very quiet and secure at this time of night.
Mm.
We're walking through a tunnel that apparently you can't walk through, and the police come through and they won't speak English to us. They just start honking at us. They're like blasting the lights. Then they're like, does anyone speak French? We're like, petit peu? Like, no, we don't speak French. And so then they just like basically escort us through the length of the tunnel, not saying anything, and they follow us. Like they literally followed us for a good like 10 minutes. Just like I think they were afraid. I guess for national security. I don't know. We
Mm-mm.
almost got arrested. We eventually finally make it to the bar. We meet up with these other Italian bartenders. I guess they were
Mm,
bartenders that we had met at the
yeah.
other club. And then for some reason they bought us all drinks and food. I don't like they just kept I think because the girls we had been with had spent a lot of money at the club before. Like they had bottle service, blah blah blah. We end up leaving because the place closed down. And now we're like, okay, we still have 2 hours to kill. Like, what are we gonna do? And we were exhausted, like so tired. We had just flown in the night before, so we were pretty like dead. We were jet lagged. So we go
Mm.
to the beach. We're like, we'll watch the sunrise from the beach. And so we go to the beach. We fall asleep. Chanel falls asleep on the beach.
Also, wasn't it raining?
It did not rain.
Oh, okay, long story.
You remember it raining?
For some reason, I thought it was raining for a little bit, but no, you're right. It wasn't raining.
It wasn't. But we
Mm.
go to the beach and we're just sitting there on like waiting for the sunrise. Mind you, we're also dressed like I'm not gonna say slutty, but promiscuously. Like we look like we were going to a nightclub and we're sitting on the beach. I was like, if I fall asleep, I'm not getting up. I'm not getting up. So me and Chrissy were just sitting there. Chanel takes her scarf
Blacked
off and
out.
she just like wraps herself up and she goes to bed. She falls asleep. We wait there for like an hour and a half, and we're like, okay, it's a half hour. We walked everywhere also because we didn't want to pay for a taxi. So we were like, okay, it's a 40-minute walk back to the other place to pick up the key. My whole dress is like backless. Like I felt like such a whore. I had to take my shoes off because I've been walking around now for almost 8 hours in high heels. I was like, I can't do this. So we're walking barefoot in club attire at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
We're in the streets of Monaco. It's a weekday. There's a moment where there's a guy with a dog next to us on the side of the street. Christine was like, "Oh, look how cute! Like, look at that dog. He's so cute." The man looked at us so disgustedly. Him and the dog. They both had attitude. To the other side of the
Mhm.
road.
Mhm.
It was a little moment. But honestly, a good story. Like 10 out of 10 story. I feel like you can't get
A
that anymore.
highlight. A highlight for sure.
Then we went, we got the key, which was also a whole adventure because it was hard to find the place. We got the key, went back to our place. We only had another day and a half in Monaco, so we slept for like 3 hours,
Mm,
and then we got up and we explored. We seized the day.
we did. We did.
Yeah. So that was Monaco. But after that, Chanel left us for a little bit. She went to Belgium, right? You went
Yeah. Yeah, just for the weekend.
for the weekend, and then me and Christine went to south of France for the Olympics, and we kind of started our little Olympic journey. So we saw rugby, we saw gymnastics, equestrian, which is what I was really excited for, but ended up being really ratchet. Um, and then what else did we see? We saw football, and there's something else. I don't know. There's another sport we saw. I keep forgetting all of them, but it was a really good experience. Like I knew it was gonna be good, but it was so cool getting to experience it with my sister, with Chanel. Um,
Yeah.
it was just the energy was insane.
It was. Everyone's been saying that. Like, even people in Paris, they were like, oh my gosh, like, everyone was so nice. Everyone was so, like, helpful. People were smiling in the street, and that's not usual for Paris.
Yeah, like
So,
French people would like approach us and be like, "Yeah, we love Team USA," blah blah. Unless we're competing against each other, of course. But I don't know. You just go inside these stadiums, and I felt like I was. There was this one game actually. You didn't come to this one with us,
mm,
but the rugby game in Saint Denis, so crazy. Like literally, we walked in. And they had upgraded our tickets for some reason and put us in the fan section. So we were like row two. And it's just like you walk in it's just like the whole stadium. Like if you just imagine like MetLife Stadium if you're from New York, and it's just completely packed, but it's all people from different countries. Like everyone's speaking different
mm,
languages, which you think like you would get that more in New York, but you don't. Because like yeah, we have diversity, but we're not necessarily all in the same place at the same time.
yeah.
It was crazy. Like I literally felt like I was in Athens, like the first Olympics. Like it was so crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing experience. Like I wasn't expecting to do the Olympics like at all. I think most people in Paris, like we all had the idea that it's gonna be super crowded in Paris, the metro was gonna be horrible, it was gonna be super disorganized, and everyone was leaving. Everyone planned to leave. I was also planning to leave. But I think that between the money, the time, and just being super overwhelmed with work, I just didn't plan in advance. And I have to say, it's probably the best experience I had, like staying during the Olympics in Paris. Like it was like a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. So I'm super happy that I got to do it with you too.
Yeah, me too. And it was, I think one of my favorite moments was we went to the villages. I want to call them Global Village
Oh
because of
yeah.
Isaac, but I forget what it was called. Oh, they're like team
The
houses.
Olympic Village, no?
The Olympic Village. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, Isaac
Mm.
has taken over our life. But yeah, the Olympic Village, and they had basically a different house, like a team house for each country. And in one area, the area that we ended up going to was like the central part where they were doing this, the official Olympic Village. They had like Team Brazil, Team Mexico, Team Czech Republic, and of course they had Team Slovakia.
Oh, that was nice.
And it was kind of like a happy surprise. And we ended up just we happened upon it. It was our last day at the Olympics, and like we didn't have any
Mm.
games planned. I had wanted to go see a couple of things, but they were too expensive. There weren't many tickets left, so like let's just wander. And it ended up being my favorite day because we had Team Slovakia, and I got to bring Chanel and also even Christine because I'm the only one in my family that's been back to Slovakia since everybody migrated.
Mm.
It sounds so serious, migrated, but since everybody left, and so I got to show Christine some of the dishes that I had tried when I went to Bratislava, and they had music and dancing. And I've always imagined bringing Chanel to my future wedding, and we have very specific Slovak traditions, like different songs that
Mm.
we sing, different ways that we dress. And I felt like this is kind of like an intro class for that for her. So it's kind of cool to have her there and show her our culture because I feel like we always forget about it and we don't talk about it enough. So it felt really, really nice to have her there and kind of expose her to everything and then also do it with Christine. Honestly, like I couldn't stop smiling. I was so excited. They had like Team Slovakia merch. I bought like everything. It was ridiculous. Like I'd never felt so patriotic in my life. That's the thing about the Olympics. Like it will make you feel patriotic. Like I've never called myself an American, but when I was there, I was like, yeah, USA, USA. Like it was crazy. But the energy was just so good.
It was immaculate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I was also excited because I got to go to the Jamaica house,
Oh,
which was
I wanted
close.
to go.
And it was really, really nice. The thing is that when I went, my money, like after Monaco, after the Olympics, after everything, I had like my bank account was so low. And they had like really authentic like Jamaican food there. And they also had it's also the Jamaican Independence Day. So I brought my boyfriend. He came with me and he like bought me like little snacks and stuff because I couldn't afford them. Literally my sugar daddy. Yeah. And it was like really nice. It was a really nice experience and something cool to do, especially because I wasn't able to like do it with my family. So
Yeah.
yeah. But it would have been nice if we were able to do it together too.
Yeah, it would have been, but next time, I guess.
Next time, because it was far. It was closer to like the stadium where they had all the track and field stuff, and it was quite far, like outside the city part. So okay, so yeah, that was pretty much our summer. And I'm not sure if we talked about this before, but usually we'll be the ones like make vision boards and kind of like plan out like what our year will look like. And there was this period where everyone was like, "Oh, we're moving into like Q2." And for us on the podcast, I think we just completely skipped over Q3, but we just like told you what happened in Q3. But like, I can't believe like summer is over and we're moving into like fall. And this is like literally the last quarter of the year.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that we're doing this reflecting because I feel like, first of all, I haven't been journaling as much as I should, but I
Same.
feel like I have this habit of looking back and being like, oh my gosh, 3 quarters have gone by and I've done nothing. But I don't think that's 100% true. Since I'm working on giving myself compassion and loving my inner child, I think a lot has happened. And just because I haven't hit those big goals yet doesn't mean that I haven't
Mm,
been hitting the mini milestones to get there. And so I think for me, a highlight from Q3 is that I figured out what I want to do with my life. I think I know what I
mm,
want and I'm not afraid to say it now. Also, I want to put it out there. I want to manifest it. I want to be famous, and I'm not ashamed of this. I feel like I've never like
oh,
told people that. Like I'm always embarrassed to say it.
yeah.
But this is what I want, and I'm working towards it, and I know why I want to do this and what my reasons are. And I think that was a big milestone for me was finally figuring out what I want and kind of putting a game plan into action. And then for Q4, what's still left to tackle? I think because fame is so arbitrary, I'm gonna focus on social media for my last Q, my Q4.
Yeah.
I am going to grow my Instagram. Right now I'm at 6,900 followers. I want to be at
Mm,
69,000. That's such an
okay.
interesting number.
Nice.
69, yeah, 69,000. I said my ultimate goal is 69 million, but let me be a little bit more realistic and say I want 69,000 by the new year.
Okay, okay. Nice, nice, nice. Mm, I would say highlights of Q3. Mm, I think mostly it would be work highlights. I think I did, like, I have to say, like, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And I don't think I realized how much it was until people kept telling me at work. And it was a pretty big deal because I think last week Friday, we had a big department meeting, I would say, where like when the top heads of like our organization actually acknowledged me in front of like all my peers and stuff and was like, yeah, Chanel, you did a really great job. You stepped up in a time of adversity and we really appreciate the hard work you're doing. And I'm not one who really looks for acknowledgement or praises. Like if I have a job to do, I want to do it to the best of my ability. So I think that's the highlight. Like I think I worked really, really hard and it has definitely paid off. Um, for Q3, I think it's the same thing. I always kind of I need to be more organized. I want to feel like I have a little bit more control of like the direction I'm heading and have my have things in order. I feel like I can, not that I'm chaotic. I think for the most part, things tend to be okay. But I think that there's a lot of important things that I should, like personal things that I
Yeah,
should be checking up on and being a little bit more on top of. So that's my goal for Q4. I'm not sure if that makes sense as a goal, but
yeah.
personally, I kind of want to get my affairs in order.
I think we should. I kind of want to also say like what I'm most proud of you for the last couple of
Oh,
quarters.
I will cry. I've been crying a lot lately
Oh my
for
God, I'm not
no reason.
surprised. I think I'm proud of you for wanting to come back into the podcast and taking the initiative to do so. I know it's been a lot of work for both of us. And so I think seeing you get excited about it again, I'm really proud that you're able to figure out that you wanted to keep doing it and you wanted to like commit to that. I'm also proud of you for being able to handle everything with your work and your relationship at the same time. And I know like a first relationship is very intense. So I think being able to handle all of this at the same time and all these new feelings and triggers and stuff, I'm pretty proud of you for that.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm excited what's left to come for sure. And I also want to say like for the listeners, I think this is also a great time for all of us to kind of like I don't know, reflect. I think this is a really great season for reflection. I mean, most seasons are, and journaling and all the things. So yeah, I want to push that out to take the time to reflect.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think so. I think everyone should reflect, make a goal
Yeah.
for the end of the year, even if it's not numerical and professional, make a personal goal and stick to it.
Yeah. And also to add on to there, because I think sometimes we could make goals, and sometimes if you don't reach them or you don't maybe see the ending of the year the way that you originally planned it, we could be a little bit hard on ourselves. So
Mhm.
taking the same advice, giving yourself memory for everyone to just be very compassionate with themselves, and like things are always thrown at us without us knowing or without us like planning for it. So
Yeah.
that's important to remember.
I think I'll add like for someone who's a high achiever, it can be really
Mm,
difficult to have that compassion for yourself because it's like this constant balance of compassion versus pushing yourself. But I'm starting to realize that you can have both. Like you can still be like, hey, like I can do better tomorrow, but
mm,
I still have compassion for myself for what I did today. So I think every day you're a different person in the sense of like different responsibilities, different things being thrown at you. Your mood is fluctuating. Mercury is in retrograde. The moon is full. Like there's all these things
okay.
happening.
Mm,
So you have to have compassion for yourself every single day.
yeah. And I know we didn't say it, but I think that is probably the last thoughts we have and the first thing that comes to our mind and the last thoughts we want to leave the listeners with. We haven't said it in a while.
The
Gotta
first,
get back into this thing a bit.
I think we should do like an official one, like to close it out, so we can do
Yeah.
it to
Okay.
bring
So
it back.
yeah, so for you, what is the first thing that comes to
No,
your
you
mind?
first. You
Me
first.
first? Okay, then you have to say it.
Okay. Chanel, what is the first thing that comes to your mind and the last thing you want to leave the listeners
Well, it's cheating because I said it already. But
with?
for them to take the time to reflect and for them to like be compassionate with themselves for whatever the outcome of it is.
Okay. And then for me,
Yeah.
it came to my head as soon as I asked you the question. So I'm just
Hmm.
going to share my mantra that I've been telling myself lately, my affirmation, and that's I am ready for greatness. Anything is possible.
Amen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bye, guys.
well,
Catch you on
thank
the
you for
flip
listening to
side.
us.
The recording has stopped.